Ever wonder what Eric Cartman from South Park might sound like if he fronted a band? No, I'm not talking about MOOP, not Faith Plus One. I mean a real band. Well, that band actually existed. They were called the Stomach Mouths, and in the mid-1980s, this group of scrappy teenagers from Stockholm managed to revive a sound that the world had almost forgotten, while clashing it with the voice of a selfish, manipulative, and loud-mouthed cartoon boy who wouldn't hit television for another 10-plus years. Hi, I'm Andy Fenstermaker, host of Poetic Wax, a weekly music history series where I dig into the record collection I've been building since the 1990s to explore the history of a band, album, or song from within. It all started in 1984. While Europe was chasing synthesizers and polish and radio-friendly hooks, these kids were digging through stacks of dusty 45s, discovering the raw, unrefined chaos of American garage rock from the 1960s. Instead of following the mainstream, they decided to live in that world. Loud guitars, fuzz pedals, sneering vocals, and an organ that gave their sound the unmistakable bite of the Pebbles compilations. So if Nuggets was the polished museum piece of 1960s garage rock, Pebbles was the box of weird forgotten artifacts. It was the even wilder stuff your parents didn't want you listening to. That's exactly where the Stomach Mouths set up camp. In 1985, they pressed their debut single on their own label, Månsea Sunlight. To their surprise, it didn't just echo in Sweden, it caught fire abroad. Soon they were touring across Europe, showing up on German TV and getting coverage in the underground UK and US press. For a bunch of teenagers reviving a style nearly 2 decades out of step, this was kind of huge. And they weren't alone either. Across the globe, the garage rock revival was in motion. Their peers were the Marshmallow Overcoat in Arizona, the Steps in California, the Chesterfield Kings in New York. And back home in Sweden, Crimson Shadows shared not only the same passion, but also a member, bassist Jens Lindberg. The Stomach Mouths went on to release 2 albums, Something Weird in 1986 and In Orbit in 1987. A string of singles and EPs followed, with cult favorite compilations like Wild Trip in 87 and Speed Freak in 2023, keeping their music alive decades later. What made them stand out wasn't just their musicianship, it was their attitude. They weren't parodying the 1960s or updating it for the 1980s. They were living it. From the vintage gear and the Farfisa organ to Stephen Carey's snarling delivery, their shows felt like stepping into a time capsule of teenage angst and reckless swagger. Before diving into a few key songs, I wanted to mention that you can check out the transcript of this episode and hear the music I'm just about to discuss over on my Substack. Sign in and sign up for free at poeticwax.substack.com. Also, a quick shout out and thanks to my paid subscribers. Join today for just $2 a month and get early access to new episodes, members only videos, and more. You can also leave a super thanks tip if you're watching this on YouTube. If you really want to understand what made the Stomach Mouths special, and honestly why I hear an echo of Cartman in them, the best place to start is with a few key tracks. Take Something Weird. The irony is, despite this being the title of their 1986 debut album, this song never actually made the cut. You had to hunt it down years later on compilations like Born Losers or Speed Freak, but once you hear it, you get why fans keep coming back. The vocals on this track are uncanny, nasal, bratty, almost cartoonish, with the same mocking bite that makes you think of Eric Cartman. Even the melody carries this taunting, jeering quality as if the band were laughing right in your face while tearing through 2 minutes of fuzz-drenched chaos. It's juvenile in the best possible way, and that's exactly what you want with garage rock. It's what it's supposed to be. Then there's Don't Mess With My Mind. Unlike Something Weird, this one did make the debut album, and it became a staple of their live sets and later compilations. Where Something Weird feels sarcastic, this track feels like defiance. It's pure teenage rebellion, bottled up into a few snarling minutes. The way the vocalist spits out the title line is kind of like the same energy as Cartman's catchphrase, "Whatever, I do what I want," only backed by distorted guitars and organ stabs. It's raw, bratty, anthemic, a rallying cry for anyone who's ever wanted to tell the world to shove it. And then you've got Waiting. This is the track that carried them into the digital era, racking up the most plays on YouTube. It shows a different side of the band. Here they dial back the Cartman snarl and lean into a more measured delivery. The song has moody undercurrents, with a tighter groove that feels less like a tantrum and more like a late night brood. It proves the band wasn't just about attitude. They could write songs with hooks and atmosphere too. For many listeners, discovering them today, waiting is the gateway drug. Unless, of course, you're looking for that Cartman itch. For me, it was something weird all the way. That one sucked me into becoming a fan. Together, these songs show the full range of the Stomach Mouths: sarcastic pranksters, bratty rebels, and serious garage rock craftsmen. It's that mix of juvenile energy and surprising depth that's kept their small but mighty catalog alive for nearly 4 decades. By 1987, lineup changes and side projects had caused the Stomach Mouths to unravel. But the story didn't end there. Frontman Stephen Carey went on to found Subliminal Sounds, the label that later released Dunyan's Tadelunt, one of the great psychedelic albums of the 2000s. That unlikely connection between fuzz punk teenagers in 1984 and modern psych rock in the 2000s is exactly why bands like the Stomach Mouths still matter. They weren't just a revival act, they were pioneers in showing what forgotten sounds, reborn and reimagined, could be. And Carey continues to champion that type of music on Subliminal Sounds to this day. So, the next time someone asks about hidden gems in garage punk history, drop the Stomach Mouths into the conversation. They're raw, they're snotty, and nearly 40 years later, their snarling energy and vintage swagger still stands tall. And chances are, whoever you're talking to probably doesn't know of them, but they should.